What is up, guys? It's Green Warrior 291, and I'm here today with a ReZero video. Now, last time I spoke about, more specifically, Arc 9 ReZero, is that a bunch of stuff changed the entirety of, well, ReZero as we know it. And the last video I posted has to do a lot with Aldebaran and the reveal of who he is, which I'm not going to go over it in this video because, I mean, there's that other video, so go watch that one. Also, apologize for, the editing side of things. It's going to be a lot of gameplay of, well, Kingdom Hearts, because I love Kingdom Hearts, but it's only because I'm doing packing and stuff, and also vacation with family, and I don't really have a lot of time to really edit, so I apologize in advance. But I will put, important stuff as much as I can when it's relevant. So, anyway, what happened before? What did we left off? Because the last thing I left off was literally Phase 1, and we got Phases 2 and 3. Well, with Phase 2, we do have Aldebaran fight Reinhard. Obviously, that wasn't going to succeed at all, but he actually banked on Petra or Mei Li reading Subaru's Book of the Dead, which would have caused Satella to come out. So, Satella, hard counters, Reinhard, sort of. It's basically a distraction. Also, 7 days before the whole world ends. So, now there's, a time limit about how to handle all of that. But let's get to the main stuff. Aldebaran meets up with Heinkel and this other new character. It starts with a Y, but I can't be bothered to try at this moment. So he gathers with his little group, and yeah, the Feldcamp come in and essentially cause a lot of problems for Reinhard. And hell, Old Man Rom was the one leading this entire charge, so it's pretty insane that, we get to see Aldebaran essentially push to his limits. And an interesting fact, throughout all of these fights that Al gets, he actually doesn't kill people, which is an interesting little thing to make note of. But I do want to say that Old Man Rom did sort of figured out how Al was, seemingly being able to thwart whatever plan they had in motion. And I think he did figure out that it was an authority. But what is interesting is I do believe that Old Man Rom would have won that entire fight against Al if it also meant that he had to die in the process. I think Felt sacrificed herself, made herself be a prisoner just to keep, her camp members from going after Al, as well as preventing Al from possibly trying to kill Old Man Rom, because I think he figured out that Rom knows of his little ability, which would be a problem. So there is that aspect that happened. And then Al frees Roy Alford, of all people, which basically means that he has a gluttony by his side, which, we haven't seen him since Arc 6, but oh my god, this basically means, I originally thought that he was going to use that Roy to eat Subaru's name or his name after he finishes his part, and I genuinely still don't know what Roy's final thing he'll use him for, but Roy did something that we will discuss in another video because, this one should probably be focused on what the title is. Who is going to stop this man? But let me get the context out of the way. Al eventually encounters, or Emilia faces off against Al, which, by the way, we get to see a bunch of cool stuff from both sides, so I'm pretty satisfied with that fight. And then we have Dragon Al versus Wilhelm Trias, not Wilhelm Estrella, Wilhelm Trias. He has abandoned the Estrella name at this point. And yeah, that fight, it's interesting that Wilhelm could have beaten the Divine Dragon that has the memories of Al, had it not been for Heinkel just backstabbing him. But then again, that's not the biggest reveal we've gotten, but we have the fact that I think Al and Dragon Al found a way to sort of communicate, in the sense that one has to help the other in their own respective fights in order to get out of the situation they're in. And by that one, it was Al using Roy to throw out a name that completely stunned Emilia and allowed Aldebaran to use some kind of ability to force Emilia to be distracted with that, so he and Roy can leave, and they can get Dragonelle and the others out, because they still have to go to Kuraragi to throw Subaru and I guess Beatrice into the well. So there is that aspect of things. And yeah, we get Otto actually cry in phase 3, I believe. And not only is that super important, it signifies a change in Otto, which we will get to in a bit. And we get the whole Petra and Subaru stuff with Arc 4 Subaru. Petra kind of obviously, having a sense that Echidna is manipulating him. And also them meeting up with Clyde and Clind. And Clind, obviously, as the melancholy witch factor, the talks about witch factors, the melancholy going to the hero, and the vainglory going to the priestess, I believe that was. I mean, that's lore stuff. I'm not going to get into that specifics. But Petra sacrificed something in order for them to use the melancholic ability. And that's as far as I want to mention in Petra / Subaru on that matter, because we got to go over the main topic. This is all a lot of the recap stuff. Now we're going to go into the meat and potatoes of the theory part. And that is, who is going to stop Aldebaran? Okay, so for one of the candidates that I have in mind is obviously Petra with Arc 4 Subaru Ghost. Like, it's obvious that these two are like the main protagonists of this arc, while Aldebaran has shown himself to be the antagonist of the arc, considering the fact that he kidnapped Subaru and Beatrice, so, he's the antagonist. But the reason it's obvious is because it seems like Petra is probably going to be the key factor in defeating Aldebaran, or at least stopping him from essentially throwing Subaru off the world. Well, getting rid of Subaru. And not to mention, I mean, we've had her be this setup character for something, because last I checked, the fan base hated Petra. Like, they had a genuine disdain towards her, all for the sake because she's a child and isn't really useful. And now the turnaround is kind of funny when we really think back into it, because right now, everyone loves Petra. They all think she is going to be a top tier character, which, I mean, she will. I'm not going to doubt that. It's funny. But also, the matter of fact, it's interesting having Arc 4 Subaru basically tag along for the ride, because all the development from that arc, Arc 5, and even Arc 6 to a degree, Arc 7 and 8, like, all of that is not exactly there. So we're going to have a very different Subaru with a different mindset. Even though it's the same one we've been following, it's more or less the fact that he hadn't had that growth. It's similar to Arc 6, where Amnesia Subaru is Arc 1 Subaru, essentially. And because he didn't have all the growth and all the shit that happened, like, he had to have a whole different development that was a lot more brutal than our main Subaru had to really deal with. I mean, yeah, there's the rabbit scene and all the other badly deaths. However, it's more of the character development that I'm kind of going over. And having Petra, who obviously knows everything and has her specific mindset, with an Arc 4 Subaru who is more self-sacrificing than anything else. Not as bad as Greediff Subaru, but getting to that point. It's an interesting mix. Not to mention, you kind of need a Subaru to counter what is essentially Aldebaran's bootleg return by death. So I guess it would make sense. Not to mention, with her having sacrificed something in order for Clind's ability to work, it makes sense that she's probably going to be, like I said, a key factor in defeating Aldebaran. She's probably going to be the main one to stop him, if not the main catalyst to stop him. But, like I said, I mean, that's Petra. Petra / Arc 4 Subaru are one of the top candidates that might be able to stop this man. Next candidate is going to be Otto, and I kind of feel like this is warranted, considering the fact that he's definitely chasing them off, constantly harassing the Aldebaran group, making sure they're never able to rest and gain strength. And that's because, obviously, Otto has had, this bad feeling from the beginning of this arc. It almost felt like he was going to go against Subaru and become like this weird antagonist to Subaru. But I mean, he also, when it's talk with Emilia, feels the most guilty that Subaru and Beatrice got, well, caught, because he trusted Beatrice to be there, make sure things are fine, not to mention that they were away for a while from each other, like Beatrice and Subaru. He trusted Garfield and his senses and his strength. And, well, he trusted Petra, being someone who's level-headed, considering that she scolds him when he starts, like, overdoing himself. So he put too much faith on other people, and it kind of backfired. Not to mention that, I mean, he definitely did not like the idea of helping Aldebaran. And obviously, I mean, the consequences there is that Aldebaran kind of just turned on Subaru. So, yeah, so there's some guilt that is showing there. And not to mention, he cried again, or had tears. So this is significant for Otto, since he's mentioned that every time he's, like, cried, it's a changing point in his life. The first one, obviously, when he was born. Second one was when he was finally able to communicate with his family. And then the third time being after, well, being saved by Ricardo and by extension Subaru. So having it be now that he is, well, tearing up, which is closing to crying, it essentially means that Otto might actually have a big changing point. And also, I kind of fear that he might have a death flag on him. Only because Otto is kind of going at it alone now. Like, the reason he's aware of what's going on is the Zeto bugs. They're kind of keeping track of things, but he's also, like, able to keep up with the group because, I mean, he's chasing them. And I doubt Aldebaran knows, like, Otto's specific abilities. So this might be a problem for Aldebaran, and it'd be quite fitting to have Otto, the guy who was saved by Subaru, be able to return the favor in a proper way and save Subaru from, well, Al. Not to mention, I mean, there's also the whole extra line stuff, which I'll get to, the extra lines of the future trial that Emilia took. There's one in particular that got my attention, and it is Otto of, I never meant to become friends with a hero. To me, you'll always be just the way you were when I met you. I don't know how that feels, but I feel like that might be Otto kinda either leaving the Emilia camp or Otto kinda just being at his wit's end. Because there's also the regular trial line that we saw in the anime and in the books in regards to Otto kind of being mad and saying that, I mean, if this was how it was meant to be, then I should have just been left in that cave, which I think that might be related to the Aldebaran, like when we do get his full face reveal. Maybe something there might trigger something in Otto. Not to mention that there's also the Garfield line of he'll kill Natsuki Subaru. So I still think that, well, Garfield will be involved, and I'll talk about him in a moment. But Otto, it'd be fitting that he, the one who is considered one of the toughest opponents for Natsuki Subaru in Gluttony If, was someone that would genuinely be a counter to Subaru, and was the big changing point against Roswell, would be fitting to have him in another situation of Aldebaran having the perfect abilities and stuff to be defeated by Otto Suin. Someone who may not be the strongest, but he sure as hell is one of the toughest characters to really deal with. Now, for a fun one, I would like to bring up Garfield Tinzel. And why do I want to bring him up? Because I have a feeling that his whole strength stuff is not done yet. Like, his whole path to being the strongest. And he's also the shield of Emilia and her camp. So, obviously, failing this first fight against Aldebaran. Also, I love the idea of the setup in Arc 5 of how he's confronting Aldebaran, kind of annoyed with him, without realizing that Aldebaran would whoop his ass later on. And having him basically take the first loss and then come back and be able to beat Aldebaran would be pretty cool. Not to mention, I also think Garfield needs an opponent that is a lot more difficult than just they're super strong. Like, Kurgan makes sense. He wants to become a genuine fighter, like someone who is going to be a legend someday. Now, obviously, against Elsa, that was more of they need him. That was his real first fight, and he didn't really win. If it wasn't for Melee distracting Elsa, he would have lost. So, the Kurgan fight, he lost, like, badly the first fight. Well, they all lost, really. The second fight, I mean, it was interrupted. And then obviously the third fight was a pretty long fight between Kurgan and him. And we got the obviously amazing animation of their fight. And him barely being able to scrape the win kind of shows that Garfield has the potential to reach the top. And then we have Arc 7, where he was fighting against Kafma and basically fighting against a current warrior, which, I mean, he was able to hold his own. Then he fought against Olbart, which he kind of needed Roswell's assistance in a more martial arts kind of style of just careful with his guy, he's about to get you, and, you know, stuff like that. So having someone who, having Garfield face against someone who is so annoying that they have essentially a reset button so they can redo the fight multiple times would be quite fitting for Garfield to beat, because, I mean, Garfield is so stubborn. I doubt he's just gonna let himself be beaten by someone like that. Hell, I mean, if he could beat Subaru, who has returned by death, I wouldn't doubt that he'd be able to contend with Aldebaran, if obviously the fucking dragon didn't come in and completely cause mayhem. But Garfield would be a pretty fun one to defeat Aldebaran. Also, there was something that caught my attention in the other future lines that Tappei posted back in, what they said, 2015. And Garfield's line kind of throws me off, because it's basically saying, I was pushed to the point where I didn't have a chance of winning, and that's why I won. I'm like, what? That line still doesn't make sense to me, but you know what? For someone like Garfield, being pushed to the brink of defeat only to snatch away victory would be fitting, especially against someone like Aldebaran. So I find it more as a fun one to say, be able to defeat Aldebaran. Just someone who's so stubborn like Subaru, but has the strength to back it up and is able to overwhelm Aldebaran's little ability. That'd be kind of fun, honestly. Now, although this Klein is, well, this is going to be the last character I can really say could defeat Aldebaran, Klein is more of if his melancholy allows him to fight Aldebaran and win. I doubt he's going to. He's on the lowest part of my list of things out of these four. But I do feel like he could theoretically be able to defeat Aldebaran. And that's all because of one line. Little girls have infinite potential. Well then, don't you feel it's appropriate to call this action, which hides infinite possibilities inside it, Little Girl? Honestly, this is probably directed to Petra, or maybe to Subaru Arc 4 Ghost. This is more of an extension to Petra. I think Klind is going to be the catalyst for sure, of Aldebaran's defeat, but you need Petra for it. So I'm kind of putting him here as a possible contender, but an extension of Petra. I would say, you need Petra and her infinite potential in order for Klind to use the melancholic ability to finally put down Aldebaran. I think that is probably how they're going to be able to stop this man. But, I mean, it's kind of speculating at this point. All I know is that Klind is going to serve a bigger purpose in this arc, later phases. And I think it's going to be a reliance between him and Petra, and obviously Ghost Subaru. A combination effort in order to actually be able to beat Aldebaran. Overall, obviously, these are all theories. There's, so much that could happen in this arc. Hell, we might get a twist, the whole thing that, no, Aldebaran was actually the good guy for some reason, and it was someone else who was the real bad guy. Hell, maybe Omega will come in and completely defeat him. That'd be kind of funny. But, honestly, I genuinely think, if I were to have to pick, my best guess would probably be Petra and Klind, a combination between the two. The funnest thing would be if Petra with Subaru teamed up with Otto and Garfield, three-ish, all work together to defeat Aldebaran. That would be kind of the coolest team up, and it would be kind of fun to force Aldebaran into a corner all together. But who I would want, it'd be a combination of either Otto or Garfield, or maybe the two in separate ways. Because it'd just be cool to have the duo. Literally, Subaru, Otto, and Garfield are literally the trio of idiots. And best friends between the three of them. So having essentially the two best friends assist their other best friend who's captured is honestly fitting, in my opinion. But you know what? I wonder what you guys think. Who do you guys think would be the best candidate to defeat, to stop this man? Because, I mean, he is causing so much chaos. Like, dude got Wilhelm hurt, and that's from the Crucius camp, so they're gonna go after him. He obviously defeated the Feld camp, and they're gonna go after his ass, because he also captured Feld. Julius is friends with Subaru, and obviously capturing Subaru basically means that you're waging war against the Anastasia camp, and obviously clearly the Emilia camp dislikes what he did, so they're going after him. So literally he just pissed off every single camp, and it's super funny. But yeah, overall I genuinely think that Petra slash Subaru has the highest potential, maybe with Klein mixed in the mix. And then Otto being next, with Garfield being next. Like, I genuinely think those two are going to play a big role in the defeat. But if I were to say the main catalyst, it had to be Petra. She's currently the main character, so I'd be kind of surprised if she didn't had some big play in Aldebrand's defeat. But yeah, overall, I hope you all liked this video, and please subscribe, give a like, and comment down below your theories on how are they going to stop this man. Anyway, this is Green Warrior 1 signing out. Peace.